There's a lot of different ways to tame in ARK today. Since the simple introduction of shooting tranquilizer darts at a creature till they pass out, the developers of ARK have explored a variety of stress-inducing but engaging and therefore rewarding methods to attach yourself to a creature before even taking it out for a walk. So, to explore what worked or didn't work in a case study for what wildcards should be doing more of in the future, we ran a poll. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share around, and let's get into it. So in at number 10 is distance petting. Just hitting the list, and in fact one of the very first non-conventional taming methods introduced. The dog like laughing stock aptly arrived with a request much like man's best friend. Needing an initial understanding of its skittish pack mechanics, changing aggression based on drag weight and the type of prey attacking requires you to lure the intelligent predator away from its pack leader, and far enough away to allow you to simply pet its head whilst crouching. And asking for subsequent petting every 30 seconds can very much dictate how well your new Hyenodon tames out, with a far worse furry friend should you miss the petting prompts when proposed, and like any real-world counterpart, scaring the meat preservers before they're tamed will lose all trust and taming progress, needing you to adopt a more stealthy and gentle approach to befriend. In at number 9 is Ride Till Submit, another early taming mechanic to arrive to ARK, and perhaps the first that realised taming could be much more than raising an egg or sending to sleep. The extant genus introduced ARK's version of buckaroo along with an additional use for existing foods. Much like the traditional delicacy, real-world translations of the Latin name are known to be fed, carrots, or rather rock carrots, come recommended to keep handy in your toolbar, and a stealthy pursuit engaged to sneak up to an unwitting hooved companion. When close enough, hand-feeding it your first nutritional helping, allowing enough trust to mount the noble steed and begin to soothe its fear being ridden by feeding it furthermore each time it bucks. Failing to feed at each buck will see mistrust and severely less taming levels when fully submitted, with an unprepared rider could see them kicking you straight into an unconscious slumber. In at number 8 is fish slipping. By far one of the most frustrating ones on the list, not least because of this fantastical lionfish lion's aggressive nature, but more so its large protein appetite. Fittingly so, being a semi-aquatic mount, fish is of the highest order of the feline's fetish, and the larger the fry, the better the tame, with you needing to capture weights of over 0.5 fish and 2.0 or over to provide fewer feeding attempts, needing to trap in fish baskets and not forgetting their spoil time before even attempting to befriend a giant cloaked cat. Needing to mimic its own hunting expectation requires you to sneak up behind it, and only while it naps during daylight, to get close enough to slip a fish inside, before quickly retreating to a safe location and carefully track its footprints as you await it to rest for another fish slip again. But all the whilst avoiding its lion pack, any other wild, and even your sudden movements, who may and probably will alert your tame into restarting the process all over again, wasting those precious rare 2.0 fish you spent so long to find. In at number 7 is blood sucking. The first on this list, realising how sadistic the developers of ARK actually are, and there's much worse to come, begs a slightly creepy crawly to literally drain the life from you and your prized living possessions, needing you to first repeatedly syringe the red stuff flowing through you into blood packs, or nowadays preferably amassing them with a likewise flying alternative, then invites you to become as well known to one as a fly and sacrifice yourself as bait, being webbed and pulled into a bog spider's grasp to drain up to thousands of blood packs before turning to you if exhausting all. Realising that whilst your own blood might satisfy a bloodstalker so far, to tame one efficiently needs the blood of other creatures, namely your creatures, with high health, juicy looking moss chops being its preferred flavour, needing to kill several in the process before finishing off with a few more drops of your own blood to finally be part of the brood. In at number 6 is Family Farewell. The most shockingly sad on this list, the menacing poop-throwing primate arrives, a taming mechanic that would look fittingly enough for a gruesome, torturing horror film. You'll question what type of game you're playing. Travelling with its family of husbands, wives, sisters, brothers and children, you'll be tasked with identifying the pack leader of the shrewdness and then proceed to slay its entire family in front of them. Then chase the final survivor as they attempt to flee, to brutally beat to a pulp on the brink of death before the omnivore finally gives up and allows you to shove pretty much any food you have to hand into its number of orifices until tamed. Not forgetting, if any other new family member runs by to see what's going on, you'll need to gun them down too to repeat the process, leaving a simple reminder you all voted this as an interesting mechanic. In at number 5 is Synchronized Hunting. To lighten the tone dramatically, the regenerating spiny herbivore comes in with a, and I quote, small sauropod syndrome. Aggressive to all that near it, treating anything as a threat, and as such, needing a friend to prove you can be just as tough, with a just as tough taming mechanic required. Expecting you to douse yourself in a soup or curry to trick it into thinking you're part of the crew allows you to get close enough to feed one its preferred food between a newfound friendship of proving one's might, hunting all carnivores together and slaying any engaged with. A simple task in theory, then realizing there's many carnivores that can quite quickly kill your long-necked friend, especially the much harder to kill that ironically or unironically increase its taming bar much higher with more damage to execute. At least allowing you to heal it up with veggie cake if hurt too bad, it's at least a great example of trust taming that I hope we see developed further, despite what I think of a mark taming. In at number 4 is Dino Impregnate. Perhaps an advancement from another popular taming method, the very last dino to ARK Survival Evolved requires the highest sacrifice deemed possible, and even then could punish you into repeating the same process multiple times to claim the horror flick headliner. Tasked with hunting its male counterparts to decimate and harvest pheromones from, allows you to trick a flying lobster into thinking other dinos are its mate, namely your dinos. Furthermore, your best weighty dinos, recommended Brontos, Gigas or Carcas, and to make worthwhile, ones that are heavily mutated, with the best stats to breed into their questionable births. Because once dealing enough damage to a rhino will find it to shoot its seed into the creature you fed a male pheromone with, hosting a gestation you'll then need to satisfy with certain craving requirements, needing up to 5 to carry all the best stat traits possible. A fascinating mechanic to especially make use of endgame ridiculously mutated creatures, but equally a punishment to new players. It's a wonder how this could be developed further. In number 3 is corpse feeding. Fascinating to see so high, considering a still fairly new mechanic. The giant Giga contender demands a bond of trust and might that personally I'd hope to see more of in future installments. Initially tasked with feeding, unlike most that require berries or meat shoved into its body, you're challenged to physically kill and drag dead dino bodies for it to sniff out and feed on, with the more weightier creatures providing a more satisfying munch. Tasks you with being selective on what morsels you present to the encompassing carnivore, all the whilst with a backbone of nerves as you grab body after body, concerned that its bloodlust might turn towards you, and once fully fed, submits enough to mount and ride, but only temporarily, as you're tasked to quench its desire for death by eating the most healthiest of creatures around until it's finally happy to call you a companion. In at number 2 is egg stealing. The age-old task feeling almost as imprinted as ARK itself, and perhaps born from the fun of simply stealing wild dino eggs. It's a natural mainstay with a perfect risk-reward factor you plainly still enjoy today. Introduced originally with the introduction of wyverns, though adopted with several other creatures since, the task simply asks to steal a fertilized egg from a parent's nest and take it home to hatch. But the realization of nest protectors being much more hostile, normally within very confined areas, and alerting all in range once having its egg stolen is a wonderful Indiana Jones-like thrill that never gets old, sneaking into its home undetected to unleash chaos as you run for your life with an entire squadron giving chase. Having to then hatch and raise your own offspring on top with normal exceptional requirements to feed and imprint develops a more entangled attachment than perhaps most. And with one more developed taming method left, let's take a look at the ones that didn't just quite make the cut. And here it is in at number 1, Impregnation. Perhaps balancing the risk-reward requirements more than others, combined with quite simply a horrifying encounter to grin and smear through. That maybe a drop of film influence helped, a xenomorph birth never gets old. Needing to venture to the most dangerous of regions with an absolute necessity of isolating it from every other hostile nearby desires a need to find specifically a Queen variant Reaper, and then damage it enough to realize death is on the brink, and as a last resort her offspring needs to be impregnated to carry on the family alien tree. Utilizing a charged light mechanic to whittle down to below 2k health before turning off, then witnessing the giant Geiger-inspired menace in its shadowed habitat piercing you with its glowing eyes, and realizing a pink aura to invite you to nervously get close enough to be sniffed out before pierced and paraded by its tail inserting an embryo deep into your belly is as horrifically fun as it sounds, leaving you to then run to safety and gain enough kill experience to develop a much stronger Reaper King inside of you, to finally burst out of your chest and remain hostile until spraying mom perfume on you, and I think explains why this is your most interesting taming method to date. And did you agree? Or what more top 10s would you like to see? Comment below, let me know. My name's Raasclark, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and as always, peace out.